Okay, guys, I'm here today with the great John Danaher. Huge honor for me. John, pretty much like 2 months after the 2022 ADCC, and the first time ever that ADCC took 3 years between one event to the other.
Crisis,
And this was like the nicest jiu-jitsu tournament I ever been in my life. I think it was like 13,000 people.
I agree with you. There was definitely some magic in the air, and you have to give credit to the organizers of the event. Mo did an incredible job. Like there's no getting around that. You and I are old enough to remember ADCCs that were held in high school gymnasiums back in the day, and countries where there was literally no interest in jiu-jitsu, and you would have crowds of 20, 30 people show up to a world championship, and then suddenly to see an event in America's greatest fighting city, Las Vegas, in front of 13, 14, 15,000 people coming from all over the world. People came up from Germany, Australia, they came from everywhere to see the event. Packed stadiums, professional production, looking like an event you would see for one of America's major sports. It was an incredible achievement.
No, and I truly believe that. I think this is just the beginning. I really hope that at some point, not gonna say like basketball, soccer, but I think jiu-jitsu could become like golf or tennis or one of those individual sports.
I think it would be the happiest day of our lives if we were taking students to competitions where they were making more than enough money for themselves to support themselves through an athletic career, retire without the need to go into MMA, without the need to teach while they were athletes, and just to eke out a living and just compete because for the love of competition. They can do it because they can make a livelihood from it, and a good one, and achieve the fame and notoriety which will enable them to sustain their careers all the way through their lives.
Yeah. Well, John, and in 2019, your team had an amazing performance. And then between 2019 and 2022, you faced a lot of obstacles, like the team broke up, blah, blah, blah. But also, again, like you made Gordon was champion. Giancarlo also won, which was crazy impressive. Nicholas got second and third, right?
Yes.
And even like Tarza, Gary, Big Dan, and Luke that didn't win, they have a ton of potential. I don't know what's coming like in 2024.
The funny thing is no one's talking about Luke. Luke went 0-0
with the open class champion. And he was just like a blue belt the other day, right?
So it's crazy to think, Dan went against a multi-time world champ who's one of the legends of the sport. And, it was a very, very tight match.
And just like since the ADCC until today, Luke got a submission against Hansen that had the best submission in the ADCC against Cyborg. And Big Dan also came from a win on a tournament, so
they're definitely making tremendous progress. It's been an incredible year, and all this was done in a situation where we didn't even have a gym. We were training out of other people's gyms. So this is mostly testimony to my students, because they came in with so much passion and such a strong work ethic that they were able to take whatever it was that I showed them and work it and build it into their bodies. Because we had such a limited time to work, there was no choice but to increase the workload. And it took the extraordinary dedication of those students to follow through a year where they were training up to 3 or even 4 times a day to try and pack information in. I had to change my approach to coaching. I normally take a very long-term view where I'm thinking in terms of how much will they know over a 3-year period. In this case, it was over. With
Giancarlo, you had 1 year, and with Marigali, you had like less than a year.
Yeah, it was 10 months. And
10 months.
With Nicholas, it was around 5 months.
That's crazy.
So everything had to be compressed. So I had to say, okay, I can't teach them what I would normally teach to get them ready for a competition. I've only got to solidify everything down to the core concepts and moves. And I must say, I was deeply impressed by the dedication and work ethic that these young men showed, and the results a testimony to how much effort they put into it.
I think like Nicholas and Giancarlo are the 2 best examples, because Giancarlo came from Lucas Lepre, which is an amazing instructor. So he had a very good foundation, but he was not a no-gi guy. Like I remember, like the first time I met him was here in Boston. on a tournament that we organized, and he lost the first match by heel hook, and all of a sudden, like 1 year later, he's like...
He was actually talking to me the other day, and he said, you know, John, I lost 7 matches in a row.
Yep.
Here,
before the trials, I think. Yeah, when he was living here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he said, you know, I went from that to winning trials, every match by submission, and then ADCC gold medal.
No, and it's not that he won the ADCC like by advantage or something. He did 4 matches, 3 submissions, and the only one that he didn't get a submission, he finished with the rear leg choke.
Yes, and he finished with a fully locked in strangle. If he had like 2 more seconds, it would have been four perfect submissions.
Yeah.
By the way, he was furious that he didn't finish by submission. He wins his first match against a very, very tough world champion, and he was expected to lose that match. He comes off the mat and he's furious. He looks at me and goes, I can't believe I didn't finish that guy. And I was just thrilled that he beat this guy. He was pissed. He was like, can't believe I didn't finish.
I think it was Izaki. Yes, Izaki is one of the toughest guys. Like, it's score hing is one of the hardest things. Very difficult. It's getting 2 points on hing is extremely hard.
He just beat Mika Galvão the other week. Like, he's tough. And I just looked, I was like, this guy's got the right attitude. Like he's and then from there he just went submission. So he's just an extraordinary young man. The transformation they made in the time that it was done, I've never seen anything like that in my coaching experience. It was unique, and I can't say enough good words about how hard those young men worked and the dedication that they showed and the potential they have for the future. You want to hear something scary? I believe that Nicholas has gotten significantly better today than he was at ADCC.
That's crazy.
It's been 2 months. Like, that guy...
he has
a mindset that it's impressive to watch. Like, I believe there will be a day where he's absolutely as dominant and electrifying to watch no gi as he is with a gi. But when you watch Nicholas drill with a gi on it, it's beautiful to watch, man. That guy doesn't just have good jiu-jitsu, he has beautiful jiu-jitsu. And he doesn't just win, he wins with style. And I'm starting to see that now with no gi as well. That same kind of confidence coming out where he's it's impressive to watch. So I think the sky's the limit for these guys. You know, once we get the solidity of having our own school, then you can increase the training time because it's your school. You can train there all day, as opposed to you can only come in for a short period of time, then you have to leave. The fact that they were able to do so well under such unfavorable circumstances it's very impressive.
Yeah, and John, the other question I would ask is, in your opinion, how many years it's gonna take for another Gordon Ryan pop it up in this world? I'm guessing the hundreds. Like,
yes, I think people don't realize how many things have to fall into place to become,
in order to
a dominant world champion. It's one thing to be a world champion. There's lots of world champions, but to be a generational dominant world champion, a lot of things have to fall into place. Think about how many things can go wrong to derail someone from becoming a world champion.
Injuries,
so many things.
Injuries,
life problems. You can fall in love and just leave the sport. You can. There's all kinds of dark pathways into drugs, and you can get the wrong entourage around you. People just take you in the wrong direction. So you're going to nightclubs all the time, and you just lose focus. There's so many things. You can just get bored. Like, boredom is a real issue for us.
I see happening a lot in jiu-jitsu that someone is winning. All of a sudden, someone pops up and is distorting the shoes of that guy, and you know, like almost all the great jiu-jitsu stars I think about, I always think about someone who was like a, and Gordon doesn't have that person like, and
it's interesting. There's most great athletes have someone who's a nemesis for them. Something about their style just throws them off, and it's a problem. And but Gordon seems to have gotten around that. And for a while, people thought it might be Felipe Pena, but now it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. He's a truly remarkable person, and the impact that he's had on jiu-jitsu has been massive. Like, there was a sense in which ADCC was kind of like the Gordon Ryan show. Like, when he came on, the whole crowd changed. Like, when he stepped on the mat, everyone came over to watch. They wanted to get as close to the action as possible. He brings a tremendous amount of personal charisma, drive, and technical perfection to the sport. It's very, very difficult to match.
Yeah. No, John, and I know that always one of your goals in Jiu-Jitsu is to make someone get good in Jiu-Jitsu as fast as possible. So it's amazing to watch like what you're doing with like Luke and Big Dan, because Luke was a blue belt the other day, right?
I think when he arrived, I think he was a purple belt from his local school in South Africa.
Local school in South Africa. And when did he arrive?
I can't remember the date, but I remember I was teaching at Marcelo Garcia Academy in Austin, and this big tall...
In Austin already. So that was like 1 year ago, max.
Less than that. It would have been about 10 months ago, I think. So this big tall kid came in, and he introduced himself, and he said he had just lost his match at the European ADCC trials. So he was upset. He just lost a match, and he had signed up for a local tournament in Austin. So he went and he fought a local purple belt in Austin, and he lost that match too. So the next time I saw him, he was completely down. He just lost ADCC trials first match, and he just lost to some local purple belt here in Austin, and he was really down. I was like, man, I feel bad for this poor kid. And then I told him, how long can you stay here? Why don't you train for a while? And I thought, he might be a good training partner for Gordon, because Gordon was very sick at the time. He wasn't doing well physically, and he lacked training partners. We had to split up, and we didn't have many training partners to work with. I didn't know anyone in Austin, so I was like a stranger in a strange land. And so I invited him in. He started training, and he was really kind of down on his luck. He did another tournament soon after that and lost again in a purple belt tournament. But there was something about him that he'd just come in every day, and every workout every day. And at the end of every workout, he would take his notes. Now, I don't say much, but I watch everything. And I would see this guy train, drill, and every time I looked over, he was working for perfection on the moves. And at the end of the class, he would make his notes. You can tell a lot by someone how good they're going to be at jiu-jitsu by the questions that they ask. And every question he asked was an intelligent question, which I gave a good answer to, so that he would learn from the response. And then the next day, I would see him taking what he'd been told and enacting it. So information. It wasn't just me talking and him not reacting to it. He would take the information in and modify his behavior the next day. So the minute I see that, I'm like, this kid's gonna get good soon. He moves well. It's a big, lanky fellow, and he uses his height really well. He's good flexibility. And in a very short period of time, he started to make some really impressive gains. And then he quickly won ADCC trials. I think almost every match by submission. And that shocked a lot of people. Like, wow, this kid lost just a short time ago. Now he just won ADCC trials. Then he had a period where he had some very bad luck with injuries. He went into ADCC severely compromised with an injury. And despite that, compromised by injury, he went 0-0 with the guy that won 3 ADCC gold medals. And if he'd just done one thing, just a little bit differently in the match, he would have won. Now, think about that. You're a purple belt that can't win
from South Africa, which I don't even know what's the level of jiu-jitsu there.
And can't even win a local match.
And then 10 months later,
you're going 0-0 with a guy who's won 3
and
ADCC
he's just
gold
getting
medals.
better. I think last weekend or so he got a submission against Hansen.
Yes.
Hansen had the most beautiful submission of the whole ADCC against Cyborg.
It was a fantastic submission, and it set the whole tournament.
It was right in the beginning. Everybody was like,
It was impressive. It was the most beautiful start to the tournament. And Haitham Rida is very underestimated. He's beaten 2 ADCC champions. He beat Orlando Sanchez by submission.
True.
And he beat Cyborg by submission. So he's submitted, not just beaten, but submitted 2 ADCC champions. He's a very talented young man. He used to train with us for like 6 months in New York City.
Yeah, I heard.
Very nice guy, very talented. And for Luke to beat a man of that stature in just like 24 seconds. It
just shows like how he's in this spike incredible. Line. And
then what I really want to do is to I always talk about the weaknesses of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is weak in leg lock. Jiu-jitsu is weak in the standing position. But one of the really great weaknesses of jiu-jitsu is in coaching. If you look at jiu-jitsu, the technical prowess and progress of jiu-jitsu over the last 50 years has been incredible. Like technically, every 5 years, the technology of jiu-jitsu seems to increase exponentially. But the coaching methods are almost unchanged from 50 years ago. And so the thing that I always want to, one of the things that I want to change most about jiu-jitsu is the way in which it's coached. And a big part of my career has been to try and cut down on the amount of time that it takes to gain skills in jiu-jitsu. And I think 2022 was a good demonstration of what's possible. And you can take people in and in a short period of time make observable changes to their performance. With someone like John Carlo, as you said, John Carlo was always like a sound jiu-jitsu player. Always had a good positional game. But he wasn't that guy that in a no-gi context was just destroying people, taking them down, dominating, passing, submitting them. And then suddenly people are like, who the hell is this?
It was like in less than 1 year. He was here in Boston 1 year ago.
How do you go from losing 7 matches in a row to people that no one's ever heard of to submitting almost everyone you face in ADCC?
Oh, John, but one parenthesis that I want to make here is that I think 2 weeks ago, I went to Austin. And it was the very first time, I watched you teaching like instructional videos a lot of times, but it was one of the very first times that I watched you teach like a jiu-jitsu class. And I came back from that trip like, man, this is so different. This is so... Because I grew up with the idea of the porrada every day. You go to the train, you train as hard as you can. You get really tough, and that's how I won my tournaments. The way you have been teaching is not focused on intensity, it's focused on volume. Correct. That was the biggest thing I got, which explains like how much technical your students get. And then you were telling me yesterday as well about how you want to teach them how to win, because you want to put them on positions that they are always winning to build the confidence. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Most people spend the majority of their training time in neutral positions. So around 90% of the time they spend on the mat is spent in positions where they're jockeying for initial contact in position. And as a result, they get very strong in that one area.
That was me. Like I had my over-under and my half-guard.
But when they get to a winning position, they've actually spent a very small amount of their training time in those positions. So ironically, they're very good at getting to winning positions, but when it's time to actually seal the deal and win by submission, only about 5 to 10% of their training time has been spent with that. Whereas my athletes, a huge percentage of their training time is spent in both finishing people and avoiding being finished. Much, much higher than most academies. In addition, I'm a huge proponent of progression in training. Most people learn a move and just try to do it on the toughest guy in the gym. Whereas I always try to match my students for the majority of their training time with people that they are better than, so that they can work with progression on easier targets first and build up over time until they can, just as you would never go into a gym and with a complete beginner and make a beginner lift 300 pounds on the bench press. You would start him with the bar and build up slowly with progression over time, and 2 years maybe he will lift 300 pounds, but you would never do it on the first day. So too in jiu-jitsu, you have to find ways to bring progression into the training, and when you can do this, you can create some magic.
Guys, I hope you guys get the chance to visit one of John's class, just to not look like I'm lying here, because it is really true. Like, it's very different than any other jiu-jitsu class I've ever been. Because
I've always been fascinated by the way in which people learn, and for me, language is one of the most illustrative ways in which people learn. And when you look at all the fastest methods of learning language, they almost always involve some kind of immersion, where a person is literally thrown into a situation where they can only speak that language. They're immersed in the language. They're surrounded by people who speak that language. And as a result, they learn pretty damn quickly. As opposed to studying by yourself with a book, which is a very slow progression, or just only speaking that language for 1 hour a day in class, very slow progression. Immersion, volume, is what creates fast learning. And my job is to build a culture in a training room that enhances volume. In particular, volume in the positions where you either win or lose. And if you can do that, you can create some pretty extraordinary effects. one day I would like to do a
yeah, no, I would just pitch here right now because I see the customers asking for it as well. Like even when
people are interested,
when we do surveys and when we talk to the customers, they all ask like coach for coaching, and
everything I teach is technique, like how to win a match. But if people are interested, I would love to teach
I think Jiu-Jitsu is growing, and everybody has the Jiu-Jitsu dream idea. And I think the Jiu-Jitsu dream idea is to become you know, like to become the coach of all these champions.
And become Gordon Ryan.
that one too. Like that.
God help me say that like me, my God.
But so I hope one day we do a video like that as well, because I think people will love it.
Yeah. Most of the demand I get is to, show me how to do this move, or how do I do this move. So that's what I teach. But if people want to learn how to coach and how to learn, then sure. I would love to do that.
And I'm sure that you're gonna create like the best system ever for that, and people will love it. But anyways, I think that's about it, John. Congratulations for another ADCC.
Thank you, Bernardo.
I'm already looking forward for 2024. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is the first time that John's here after the ADCC, and I was just joking with John that John's vacation is to come to Boston and film 10 hours per day. That's normally your vacation, John.
Believe it or not, this is an easy day compared to a regular day.
But so we're enjoying John's vacation over here in Boston. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Bernardo.
Thanks. Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTubeFaria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.